Good morning, everyone. Holly Magnuson here with Ask the Security Guy. And today we're going to be talking about phishing. Probably almost all of us saw the email this weekend. And a couple of things to think about and know about with these types of phishing emails. Some cases it is a compromised account. That person got hacked. And other times it's what's called spoofing, where it looks like it's coming from that person, but it really isn't, and it's not a compromised account. And Sean's going to talk some more about that, but I just want to lay that groundwork. As a reminder, you can ask questions throughout. You can use the Q&A app, and the easy way to get to it is there's probably in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, it says Join the Conversation. And that will allow you to get into the Q&A app. You can also, if you would like, you can dial my extension 2005 and leave a voicemail. And I'll be able to check those throughout our time and give those questions over to Sean at the right time. So I'm going to get out of the way and let Sean talk about phishing. Go for it, Sean.
Good morning, Holly. Good morning, everyone. So we've seen a lot of phishing messages go by, and almost all of them have some form of link or attachment, and they use a scare tactic to get you to click on it. We're going to disable your account, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You're going to lose something if you don't act. And then the action takes you to usually a scammer's website that's prompting you for your username and password. So what that is the attacker trying to get your credentials so they can get into our systems as you. And then typically once they do that, they will find other ways to worm their way further into our systems and get at what they really want, which in our case is a vast amount of identities for faculty and staff and students from current to the beginning of the university. So different organizations have data of different types, and they are different value. For universities, it's generally person data. For a retail store, it would be credit card transactions. So it depends on the audience and what they're trying to get. But today I wanted to take some time and show you some examples and show you the websites that these scammers are using when you do exactly what I tell you not to do and click on the link. So in just a moment. I hope everybody can see the screen. So our first example here came in on Sunday. And as you can see, it's using some Google language and the fonts and the logos. And our records indicate that Google recently made a request to terminate your account. Okay, you will never get an email like this that's legitimate. Just know that right up front. We'll process your request shortly. You will lose everything if you're still using this account, and then notice the grammatical errors. Now, unfortunately, with this one, when you mouse over cancel request, it is a shortened URL, which means you're not going to see exactly where it's going to, because this little guy here is a reference to a much longer web address, so to speak. As I said, unfortunately, this one was already dead by the time I got to it, but it will probably look like one of these. So this is another one that came in also fairly recently. And in here, you'll see this came from the IMT service desk. But it really came from this address. So that will tell you right up front what you're looking for and who it's really from. This was actually kind of lazy because the address itself here could have also been spoofed, meaning it could have been made to look like it came from support.apu.edu. But as you go down, dear APU.edu email user. So look at this. But again, our attacker got a little clumsy here because we now know that they've also hit Cameron.edu. Then if you go a little further, Here's the link, supportdesk.wix.com/supportapuedu. Now they're using familiar terms, familiar language, and they're trying to make themselves sound like us. But if you look at this, you'll notice that the language is different than our normal parlance. It doesn't have the template that we use for our emails that are official. And it's asking you to click on a link, and it's trying to create fear. It's trying to create a sense of urgency that you're going to lose something if you don't do something right now. Now, in this case, we actually have a website to go to. As of yesterday, this website was still active, and I managed to grab it. So here we go. Here's the link. And you can see they're trying to use terminology that is similar to ours. They're trying to get the look and feel. They got the APU colors. But let's look at what they're asking for. Name, email, APU NetID, password, and password. Now, when you click on this verify link, it is not going to verify anything. It is recording this data in a scammer's database. Now, in some cases, they think that this information is enough to get them through a password reset process if the password got changed. As you know, if you've ever used our Forgot Password tool, there is an additional piece of information that is not listed here. So that's another way that our systems work to protect you. But again, this is fairly common. We see this all the time. So let's look at the indifferent email. This is another one that's making the rounds. View the attached file. Okay, well, what's the attached file? Well, when you look at it in just the standard Gmail view, it says document.pdf. Okay, so it's a PDF. But it's not. It's document.pdf-copy.html. This is actually an HTML file that automatically redirects you to another website. That website is this. Now here, they're a little more blatant. They're just asking for your email address and password. And then you have a sign-in button and a stay signed in. Now, if you do click on the sign-in button, it's going to take you to a page where it says failed. Well, actually, it didn't fail because it successfully recorded your username and password into a scammer's database. And once again, somebody else has your credentials. A lot of times, these websites also, when you go to them, will download malware to your computer. Now, these two websites do not, because this is a special machine that I have set up here that doesn't have antivirus loaded, because I really wanted to see what would happen when I went to these links. I'm sad to say I was disappointed, and there was no malware downloaded onto this computer. But rest assured, I will keep my eye open, and as soon as I find one, I'll bring it back for you all to see. And Holly?
I used to say, you've got a sick sense of humor. So what should we do when we get one of those emails and we're not sure?
So the best thing to do if you get one of those emails is we have a special address set up at the support desk called spam@apu.edu. And what that address is used for is we collect all the different kinds of spam messages that people may get or that they're unsure about. And we take a look at them, and we will respond to you and let you know if it's legitimate or not. But the way it benefits me is I get then samples of all the different spam messages that are floating around our domain. And I can check them out as I did with these to see what they're doing, where they're going, what they're asking for, and if there's anything additional being loaded with the web page, any goodies being downloaded onto your computer. It also helps us because I can work with our systems engineering team on special types of blocks to be put into our Google Apps, as well as the Campus Web Filter to stop these websites from doing any more harm.
Good. So far, no questions about phishing. and I'm not coming up with any good ones right now. So we do have a question though that was not related to phishing, but it's something that we really do want to remind people to think about. And this question was about, let me find it so I read it right.
Mm-hmm.
Having to do with when we are in places like Starbucks or any of these places that offer free Wi-Fi, using our university laptops, working on emails or doing work kind of off-site. What things do we need to think about? What are the dangers that we potentially have with those?
Absolutely, and free Wi-Fi is available in so many places now. I know when I was traveling over the holidays, I was making use of free Wi-Fi let me see here. I don't want to admit that I was working, but I was working. Anyway, so at the end of the day, it is a convenience thing, and to be able to go to a Starbucks and enjoy a cup of coffee or whatever whatever is your poison. When you're using those Wi-Fi's, those different Wi-Fi systems, you need to make sure that any web address you go to has HTTPS.
Where would that be at? Because when we show somebody.
Right, in the address bar. Actually, if you look at, let me share my screen with you again. So if you look right up here, you can tell that this web address is not HTTPS because there's no little lock. But here it is. And here it is as well. Now this one's interesting because this is a scammer site using HTTPS. And what we also see is the little lock.
You would get the verified by Google.
Yep, used a real cert. So what that does is it ensures that any traffic going from your web browser out on the internet can't be sniffed or read by somebody else sitting beside you there at Starbucks. What is fairly common and easy to do is there are tools available that will operate off of a standard laptop that would allow me to sit there in Starbucks, probably a table or two down from you, and see all the traffic that your computer is sending and receiving on the internet. Now, when you're using websites that don't use HTTPS, that means I can literally see everything you're doing. If you're using a website that does use HTTPS, a secure connection, all I see is garbage because I can't read the connection. Now, there are tools that would allow me to break that, but they're not 100%, and they're not easy to get along with. And you're generally not going to see people using them. But for your average day-to-day, people who are curious or people who are looking for targets of opportunity, they're going to be looking for people that are not using secure connections.
Pretty much here at APU, everything we do is on the HTTPS, but are there any additional tools, additional things we could use to even bring up the level of protection?
So, well, APU Wi-Fi uses what's called WPA2 Enterprise, meaning that all of our wireless traffic here is secured, so it's encrypted between the computer and the access point, and the wireless access point. And then, so that part is usually where we find a vulnerability. In our case, that's encrypted as well. So, and that may not mean much, but if you look at your home router at home, when you set it up, there's an option for WPA2. Usually WPA2 Personal is what you want. And that's a very good protocol to use at home, too, because it's very secure. The older one was called WEP, and that takes right now, depending on the hardware you have, it can take 15-20 minutes for me to break your key and see all the traffic at home.
Yay!
But again, that also depends on how much traffic there is at home, because I need to collect a certain amount of data to crack the key. With WPA2, it's much harder. And as you know, as we saw from the Sony hack, no technology is impenetrable, but there are barriers to entry that get higher with some of these technologies. So the idea is that you want to make it so inconvenient and raise the bar to such a level that your average attacker is just going to go somewhere else.
Um, Again, back to our public Wi-Fi's. I've
Hmm.
heard of what is it called, OpenVPN or some of those kind of
Right.
tools.
Hmm.
Would you recommend those for people who do find themselves working off-site a lot?
Right. I do actually recommend VPN wholeheartedly. At APU, at APU we have for very limited uses, we have VPN already set up for specific users and specific use cases. Um, Generally, that's not needed for most of what we do because of the way our systems are set up. For your average user, for home personal use, if you find yourself in coffee shops a lot or places where you're using free Wi-Fi a lot, there's a tool I use called ProXPN, and that's proxpn.com, and it's a personal VPN that again protects all of your traffic when you're using these public Wi-Fi systems.
Very, very cool. So looking for some other questions, stuff. Let me look in one other spot to see if there's any more questions. Not seeing any. Any other news that we've recently for in the security world that we need to talk about and think about for education or even for our personal?
This has been so far this year. It's been relatively quiet, with the exception of the Sony compromise. Don't really have a lot else for today. But if questions come up as we go through the month, um, please feel free to fill out the form that came out in the announcement email, and ask the question, and we'll address it.
Well, yeah, it's kind of interesting how quiet it has been. Even reading some of the articles that I read, not a lot happening.
Yeah, yeah, and it goes that way. A lot of times you'll have bursts of activity followed by bursts of quiet.
Oh, we do have another question. It just came
Hmm.
in. Does clicking on the email to view it download anything?
It can. So some of the websites that are loaded by clicking on the link have it's what we call drive-by downloads, and it is where, as the web page loads, malware is being loaded onto your computer as well, depending on the type of browser you're using, your antivirus, patch level, and if it's it's a target of opportunity because they may be taking advantage of a new vulnerability in the web browser or the operating system, and it can be on Mac or Windows. Some of them are even geared towards Android or your typical mobile devices. So yes, sometimes it can, but not always.
And that's why, here at APU, we do have antivirus on all of our computers
Hmm.
and anti-malware. So it's, constantly checking, let those updates happen, let it run.
Right.
Sometimes it comes up, I think nowadays it's coming up in the middle of the afternoon, like on Wednesdays. Let it run its scan. Sorry, I've got a tickle in my throat, so.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that just because we have antivirus and anti-malware, that is not 100%. As new malware comes out, it always takes the antivirus companies at least a couple hours, if not a couple days, to update the software that looks for that the Trojans, the malware, etc. So a lot of it really comes down to you as the user being very cautious about what you click on.
Do you see Jonathan's second question there, Sean? Do you have the Q&A app open so that I don't misquote him? He says I'm coughing.
So to view the email, So typically, no, you can view the email without issue. Clicking on links or opening attachments within it are generally where you get in trouble.
So any other questions? Not seeing anything here. Trying to think. I don't have any other questions for you, Sean, for today. Any other tidbits you want to share with us?
Looks like we have a new one that just came in from Dawn.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and from Jessica. Okay, so with anti-malware, antivirus software do you recommend for personal computers? There are a number of good ones out there. There are two that I like personally. One is called ESET, and that's ESET, and another one is called Avast, and that's AVAST. Well, Avast has a free version and a commercial paid version. I believe ESET is paid only, but they're both quite good for home use. And then generally when I get phishing email, yes, Jessica, please do send them to spam@apu.edu. Again, that helps us build a repository of samples so that we know what's coming in, and we can update our own filters to help stop it.
Very good. Thank you for those questions, everyone. I don't see any more come up here really quick. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't select them as we answered them, but always feel free if you've got questions about security stuff, you can email the support desk or email iso@apu.edu.
Okay, and we have another one from Jonathan.
Oh,
What about reporting phishing email to Google near the reply button? Yes, it is a good idea to report. So that also helps Google strengthen their spam filters. So they're employing a different process than we are, but with the work that they do, it will stop it from even showing up in our inbox in the first place.
yeah, I've been surprised. Google does a great job with spam, but phishing emails still seem to get through a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And
And if you look at how the phishing emails are written and how they're crafted, you can imagine how difficult it is to try to stop those things. So do we have any other questions?
any other questions? Again, we're here. If your department ever wants us to come in and talk about security, we're always welcome to, happy to do that. If we've got any faculty in the group, last week we did 3 classes for one of our faculty members in the School of Business, and that was great fun being in front of our students, so helping them understand.
Yes, we certainly love any opportunity to speak to our students.
Well, with that, Sean, shall we say goodbye?
It looks that way. I think we're wrapped up for today.
Thank you, everyone, and again, feel free to contact us. You pretty much know how the ways to get a hold of us. So we look forward. We'll see you again next month. Have a great day.
Thanks.